Welcome to Discovering. Tonight we're talking deer. We'll take a look at the engineering behind a successful food plot.
It's not just about scratching up some dirt and throwing seed in the ground and hoping for the best.
And CWD in the UP. What does it mean? I met with the DNR for an update. It's all tonight right here on Discovering, so stick around.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Food plots are much more than a growing bait pile. They can provide an important food source throughout the year for deer and other wildlife, particularly at times when they need it most. Their benefits stretch far beyond that of a place to shoot a deer. The number and quality of the deer you see, as well as when you see them, are all factors that should be considered when planning your plot. I met with John Comp of Northwoods Whitetails in Menominee to find out more.
Tonight we're going to talk about food plots. We're going to show you that it's not just about scratching up some dirt and throwing seed in the ground and hoping for the best. We're going to show you what we've created here in Upper Michigan. We've created a central feeding location for whitetails. We've got hidden access, getting in and getting out of your deer stands, so your hunting is undetectable. Your hunting gets better as the season gets longer. We'll show you how we've broken this food plot up into two separate food plots. We've taken a 15-acre field with the structure, knocked it down into a 3-acre hunting field. We've created the best nutrition on this whole section of land. And they know it, and they're here. They're eating. We've got green food from September all the way till next September. There's 20 different species planted out in this food plot. This is our destination food plot. Tonight we're going to talk about your main food plot. We're going to talk about kill plots, how to create kill plots, how to get in and out of your deer stands undetected. This is one of our examples, what we call a kill plot. It's 1/3 acre of our brassica mix. The deer come out of the swamps here. We've got a clover path right here we're standing on. There's deer bedding all through here. Here's where they stop to eat first before they head out to the big destination food plot. And those bigger bucks, they don't want to be out in that open area. So what they're going to do is they're going to come out, stand on the edges and feed here 15 minutes, maybe half hour before dark. Hence, we call it the kill plot. There's a deer stand right behind us. Easy access. We can get in and get out without knowing the deer even know we're here. And we're going to shoot down in this food plot, 80-yard shot versus hunting on the big 4-acre field. And you can see the deer trail here, worn down. This is designed to be this way. This is coming out of the swamp from the south. There's a lot of bedding down in here, hence the reason why we're not talking too loud. There's deer bedded nearby. They come out of the south, walk along this buffer strip, and they can stop and eat. So they can stand where I'm at right now, look over the big destination food plot and still feel secure. One of the very important things you have to keep in mind if you're going to sit on a food plot is that you have to have access into the deer stand and out of the deer stand without letting the deer know you're there, because once you bump the deer off the food plot 2 or 3 times, suddenly you've got nighttime movement instead of daylight movement. So you can see the deer stand back here on the back side of this milo and grain sorghum. We come in from the back door. This is our back door access, the screening cover and the topography. The deer down in that food plot or out on the main plot won't see us getting in or getting out. We have a nice clean raked trail right down to the bare dirt. There's no sticks, there's no leaves. We don't leave any scent behind us. We call that area behind it, it's a deerless area. The deer do not use that particular spot. So we can leave out the back door at dark or come in during the morning before daylight, get into that deer stand, and the deer don't even know we're there. Obviously we hunt it on a west wind, which is prevailing winds. We can hunt it on a northwest wind. Okay, if we've got a south wind that blows our scent out into the food plot, we don't hunt that stand. But if you're going to hunt a food plot, you have to keep that food plot sacred. You cannot let the deer know you're hunting them. Otherwise, the food plot quickly becomes nocturnal. What we've got here is a mix of grain forage sorghum and some Egyptian wheat and some hybrid sorghum. I wanted a buffer strip between the deer stand and our kill plot of about 20 yards. The tops got knocked off, which saves me the work of going in there and clearing shooting lanes so we can see the food plot. So we've got just under a month before deer season. I'm sure we're going to get some more winds soon. It's planted so thick the deer do not want to walk through here, and it keeps them away from the deer stand so we can get in and out of that deer stand without being detected by deer. To make this food plot go from an acre opening down to a third of an acre, we put a buffer strip of our food plot screen right there, so the deer, they come out, they can't see along the backside of these spruce trees. We're creating a sense of security for these deer, and this particular food plot will have deer in it 2 hours before dark. The planting we have in this kill plot, it's got turnips, rutabagas, we've got some of our forage greens, forage brassicas, and you can see the deer on it pretty heavy. In 2 weeks' time, it went from 2 feet tall down to a foot tall. There's a little bit of rye coming back. We use that as a soil builder in the spring, but by and large, this is going to be very attractive, probably mid-November when rifle season starts, and then muzzleloader season, it's going to be very attractive. They're eating all the greens right now. There's a lot of tubers in here, big bulbs. So there's a lot of food. There's literally tons of food in this 1/3 acre that the deer are going to have for the next 2 months. But we don't want them to spend the night here eating. This is just kind of a pit stop. We want them to end up at the destination plot to our north. So when they leave this food plot, we can get in and out of that rifle stand undetected. Now we're in what we call a destination food plot. This is a food plot that rather large, very diverse plantings. We've got 5 different strips of food. There's over 20 different species planted in these strips. And basically what we're creating is a spot that we want the deer to end up for their nighttime feeding, early evening feeding. We know where they're bedding. The hunting plot, the shooting plot's just off the side of this. This is where the deer on this 80 acres is going to end up every night. So what we've got is a strip of our brassica planting. It's got 8 different species. We've got a strip of what's called fall forage, plus radishes. There's different clovers in it. We've got another strip of brassicas and some rye. Right up against the wood line, we've got white clover and chicory. And then we've got an early season planting that was buckwheat, radishes, some soybeans that we planted in August. And there's rye and oats in there also. And basically what we're trying to create is there's not one thing planted. A, it's not good for the soil, and B, the deer are looking for diversity. We've got, like I said, 20 different species here. You can see they've knocked this grain planting down. Now they've started on our brassica planting. And there's going to be food here all the way up into March. So we're feeding the deer. We're building really good soil with diversity. Last year this brassica planting was here. This spring we came in and let the rye get about 4 feet tall. We mowed it down. We let the red clover come. And that fed the deer all summer. Then we tilled it with one pass of our tiller, and it produced a lot of organic matter as well as nitrogen for this brassica planting. And then this spring we came in where the brassicas were. We put in oats, an annual clover, some peas, and some rye. We tilled that under in August with one pass on our tiller and planted here, and we're basically flip-flopping this. We're building organic matter in our soil, which is very critical to having good food plots. And we're creating diversity, A, for the deer, B, for the soil. We don't have the same planting every year. Now what we're looking at here is a exactly half acre planting of our Sweet Feast brassica mix. We seeded it at 3 pounds an acre. One of the reasons I feel that this year it was so successful, it was 3 feet tall, solid green, very little purpling in the plants. We did a soil test prior to planting this particular brassica plot, and our fertilizer requirements were much different than what we needed in the past. So we used a real odd cocktail of fertilizers, and we've gotten, to me, the absolute best brassica planting I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not just saying it's because it's one that we did, but it's just, I've never seen a brassica planting this good. There's probably less than 1% purpling in the leaves. These are very healthy plants. This has been in the ground since late July. This isn't your everyday purple top turnip. This is just one of the large turnips that we use in this mix. We've got probably on this particular food plot 1.5 acres of this, and there's literally tons of forage in 1.5 acres. 3 weeks ago, these leaves were almost 3 feet tall, and the deer are just starting on the leaf part of these plantings, which is good because then once they get done with all this green, and it's going to take them a while to knock it down. Plus we still have clover and grains, rye, oats for them to eat. And we really want this. It's very nutritious for the deer, especially when those bucks are just entering the rut now and they're going to need a lot of good food and good nutritious food, not just something green. There's all the nutrition these deer that are going to recover from the rut are going to need. That's going to equate to healthier deer this winter. They're going to enter the spring antler growing season in much better shape than if they were just eating sticks and berries and piles of corn. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons. A, it's a great food source for the deer and for us to hunt over, but it's going to be healthier for the deer herd. These food plots are. You look at the carnage that has started on this brassica. They're in here eating every night. And the really nice thing about this particular food plot, I haven't been in here in 3 weeks. Nobody's been in this field in 3 weeks. So, you know, if you compare that to a corn feeder, bait pile, and I'm not against baiting. You know, some places you just have no choice. But this food plot will have deer in it 2 hours before dark because they're undisturbed. Nobody's out here bugging them. There's no human scent out here. We're out here right now talking with our rubber boots on. We sprayed down. An hour from now, there's going to be deer out here. And, you know, if you're looking for that option other than baiting, or in addition to, we've got this food plot that's actually in about a 15-acre field. Now the deer only think this is 1.5 acres. They're going to come out here well before dark, and there'll be a lot of deer out here. And they've been conditioned to come out here. Nobody bothers them. There's good food here, and there's a lot of does out here. And in the next 2 weeks, where the does are, that's where you're going to find the bucks. One of the things we like to do is we try to dictate deer movement. And we took the brush cutter, drove in as far as we could into the woods. And then we went back into the woods and created what we call a sidewalk for the deer. We cut some trees, let them fall each side for another 100 yards. So we know they come out right here. When we did sit on this food plot and observed, they all pile out right here. One of the things that with our food plot system that's a must is you have to hide the deer and hide your access. So now if you look out here, we're standing in the middle of about a 14 to 15 acre field. No self-respecting mature buck is going to come out here unless he's chasing a doe. But follow me, I'll show you what the deer see. This is what you want your food plots to look like right here. Secluded, well hidden. Our food plot screen had 3 feet of the top taken off because of some storms, but it's still standing. We've got structure on the side, we've got structure in the middle, we've got diversity, we've got 20 different species of plants growing here. This food plot's going to draw just about every deer within 80 acres because this is the best green food. They're not looking for corn right now, they're not looking for soybeans, they're looking for green food, and we've got plenty here. We've got plenty of food for when December rolls around. That's the environment you want to create. In this food plot screen, it's an annual that we have to plant every year. I mean, we've got switchgrass growing. That's going to take 3 years to get that tall. And we can put trees in there. It's going to take 10 to 15 years to create this environment. But until then, we can use this food plot screen, which is a hybrid sorghum and some Egyptian wheat, to create this structure for these deer. It kind of looks like it's fallen down, but keep in mind we had a blizzard and 2 50-mile-an-hour windstorms. And I can't break this. I mean, you bend it down, it's not going anywhere, it just pops right back up. It went from 12 to 14 feet down to anywhere from 10 to 8 feet, which is perfect because the deer is only 3.5 feet tall. If this wasn't here and this was just an open field, you might see them 20 minutes before dark and you'll see all the does and fawns. But now the bucks will come out an hour before dark because they've got a safe space, a wide open space. They can chase these deer, but yet they still feel secure because this structure's here. Again, another example of access to get to your deer stand if you're going to sit on your food plot. You can see there's the pop-up tent on the platform that we were looking at earlier, and the access to that tent is on the back side of that willow, and we hunt it with a north wind or a west wind, so we're leaving with the wind at our back. and we're sitting with the wind in our face. So at dark, when we climb down, we walk out of there, you know, there's a bunch of deer out in that food plot. They have no idea we were there. That's the kind of environment you want to create when you're going to hunt on a food plot.
CWD found in the UP. What does it mean? I met with the DNR for an update.
On October 18th, unfortunately, we got confirmation that a 4-year-old doe that was harvested in Dickinson County came back positive for chronic wasting disease. We were hoping that this would never happen, but I guess we're not terribly surprised or shocked that we finally did get a positive deer. Chronic wasting disease is a fatal neurological disease that affects members of the deer family, and basically it's caused by a misfolded protein, or a prion, that when it gets into a deer, it can build up and eventually cause lesions in the brain, and it's always fatal, unfortunately. Deer in advanced stages of the disease will become very thin. They'll look like they're wasting away, basically. They may stagger around, show very little fear of humans, act disoriented, have a lot of thirst, maybe foaming at the mouth or salivating a lot. And within about a 6-week period of becoming that symptomatic, they'll typically die. It takes about 18 months to 2 years from the time of infection to get to that point. So these deer that do become infected can go a long time shedding these misfolded proteins or prions that can then be picked up by other deer. So you don't know they're even infected till the very end, and that's the unfortunate part. I say we're not totally surprised by this happening because we now have chronic wasting disease in about 25 states in the United States. Since it was found in Colorado in 1967, it jumped over some pretty large land areas, became established in Wisconsin in 2002. In lower Michigan, we found it in free-ranging deer in 2015 and have confirmed it now in 6 counties down there with about 64 positive deer since 2015. Given that kind of spread across the United States, and indeed into Canada and even overseas to South Korea, Norway, I guess it's not a total shock. What we'd like to do now is not overreact. It's important that people continue to hunt. Right now, this is one deer that we found in southern Dickinson County. We don't know if it's a single deer that may have wandered in from somewhere, or if there are multiple deer that have this. So the strategy right now is to take advantage of the upcoming hunting season, and using the great cooperation we get from the hunting community, we want to collect about 600 samples, deer heads from deer harvested in what we're calling the core surveillance area of southern Dickinson County and into western Menominee County, and in a more expanded zone that we're calling the expanded surveillance area, going up into Marquette County and a little bit into Delta and even into southern Menominee. We'll try to collect an additional 300 samples and try to determine the prevalence rate of the disease and the geographic distribution. Let's hope that it's one animal, one place, but by sampling this many animals, we'll be able to tell if it's multiple animals involved and just how far spread this might be. Then, based on that kind of information, we can get together with deer hunters, wildlife organizations, the general public, and try to strategize, like, what do we want to do for a response? What is appropriate? What might work the best? And especially, what would be acceptable to the people? We've learned in other states that there's no sense in making all kinds of big rule changes and laws to address a concern if people don't believe it's true, or don't believe it's serious, or don't want to follow those new rules. So before we even get going down that path, we'll want to see just how big of a problem do we have, and then consult with the public to get their input on it. Then we'll come forward, the DNR will come forward with recommendations for the Natural Resources Commission, who will ultimately make the final decisions. Hunters that harvest a deer that they want to have tested, it's a pretty easy process. You just need to come to one of our DNR offices. We will sever the head from the carcass if you haven't done so already and send the head in for testing. We probably will be removing the lymph nodes, which are analyzed here locally for most of the deer. We've been trained to do that now by the disease laboratory in East Lansing. That way we can airmail the lymph nodes and get results much faster than making runs with a truck downstate. So a hunter, all you need to do is, like, after you've processed the deer and you have that head, you can drop it by one of the offices. We can do a regular deer check with the head then, age it, measure the antlers if it's a buck, and then take the head from you. You can cut the antlers off first even. We don't need that. What we'll need to do is get into the lymph nodes that are kind of on this area of the deer here, buried deep inside the head. And if you don't want to cut the head off yourself, you can come in just like normally to a deer check station with a deer in the back of the pickup or whatever, and we can work with you to collect the head at that time, or just make arrangements to get it from you later. We're going to be really well staffed here at Escanaba, Crystal Falls, and Norway field offices, because that kind of brackets the main core area. And in addition, we're going to probably set up some drop boxes with maps to make it convenient for hunters that aren't coming in during normal business hours, or if they don't want to drive this far. We'll try to set those up in strategic places so that you can just come by, fill out a tag yourself, and drop the head, and we'll get it tested for you there. We will test the heads from deer from anybody that wants to have it tested. I mean, if you're really concerned. It's important to note, though, that chronic wasting disease has never been found to infect human beings. It's a disease of the family Cervidae, deer, elk, moose, and reindeer, basically. And we don't believe there's anything to worry about. Nonetheless, if you are worried about human health, the Centers for Disease Control and the World Health Organization always recommend that if a deer came back positive for CWD, that you not consume it.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.